Okay, everybody, we are on a fourth question from Kathy. Kathy, thank you once again for your fantastic questions here. I'm going to try to do a lot more of these in the future, so if you guys have questions, let me know. Okay, so this is on Annie's video, Training in Groundwork. We just finished doing Mocha's one, and she has a fantastic question. It says, I think I know where I got confused, and it was over semantics. Now, I have to say, I'm going to link the other two videos in the description of this video so you can understand what we're talking about. This is kind of a continuation, but great conversation. When you say you're using draw to bring her forward, I always call it leading. A draw to me always meant coming to you without any help. Sending and driving mean the same, right? What do you think about disengagement while driving, then lead, then stop, then repeat? I'm not doing well explaining this. Actually, Kathy, you're doing a fantastic job explaining this. I have no problems understanding what you're trying to say. When I work with horses for groundwork, I use drive and draw all the time. Here I am driving, I'm sending Annie back. So I didn't lead her backwards, I drove her backwards. And here I'm going to lead her. The action is leading, but the feel is drawing. So drawing is where a horse comes to you or with you, and driving or sending is where they have to go without you. So they might go ahead. But here I am leading, which is in effect a draw activity. So a draw activity doesn't always have to be leading. You can actually draw a horse into a turn when you're riding. So for example, if you're sitting on a horse and you need to turn left or right, obviously, you can draw a horse into that turn by just putting a hand out. If you are on the ground, so let's see if let's find a spot in here so right here, I'm up on the mounting block. I'm going to draw, but I'm not leading Annie into the mounting block closer to me, so I'm drawing her towards me. A lot of my scratches and touches and pets are going to be a draw activity. So I'm going to ask her to come forward, but I'm not leading her. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's take a look at this little section here where I'm going to draw a turn. So here I'm kind of pulling, but I'm sort of drawing. So I'm going to look left, and then I'm sort of drawing Annie over towards me into a turn. And when we're riding, we can do an awful lot of this. We can actually just kind of give an indication we want a bit of action, but we can indicate the direction through a draw of a turn rather than harsh pulling and stuff like that. That's not draw. That's just pulling and yanking on a horse's face. But you can see that I'm drawing her sort of around to me. I'm not pulling on the lead, and the lead's on this side, but the idea isn't to yank or pull. It's just to give a little indication and sort of draw those thoughts and then draw over. Yes, a draw to me always meant coming to you without any help. Yeah, help is a funny word. Help might be, not driving, I suppose, but help could be just a call or a touch or just a light sort of tug or just to pick up a lead rope. You might be able to instigate a bit of draw. You might reach, and then that would be a draw. And we draw to our horses all the time. They help us draw to them all the time. Sending and driving mean the same. I think so. Yeah. What do you think about disengagement while driving, then lead, then stop and repeat? So I don't think about disengagement much at all. I covered this in the last video. I'm not a fan of the word disengagement, mainly because it means to not have something engaged. But I think that comes from cars. I think that's analogy is a guy analogy. I think it's a car thing. You're disengaging the gears or something like that. But I think that the back end is always engaged. What I really want is I want the front end to engage more. And when it does do that, the back end just swings. It just moves out of the way, because it has to, because a horse goes where the nose goes. Here, you could say that Annie's leading towards me, but just before that, if we just come a little bit before that, some would call this a disengagement of the hindquarters there. Just let's rewind a little more, right? But what I'm really asking for is her nose to come to me. So when her nose does finally come to me, the back end just has to move out of the way because horses just work that way. So do I think that there is value that when I'm going to drive? Now I think Kathy still might be talking about doing some circles and then getting that hind end to move. Again, it isn't about having the hind end move away from me that I think about much at all. I think about, well, where am I going? Where do I want to be? And the rest of the body would follow what the head is doing. So I'm almost always thinking about what's the head doing? What is the nose doing? Where's the nose going to go? To me, that is the most important part of the horse, because that's the thinking part. And we want that. If you get that, you know what the rest of the horse is going to do, which is probably the most useful thing you could do. So I guess the last part of it, driving, then lead, then stop and repeat. I think repeating exercises often is useful. I don't think that we have to. I'm not a fan of horses that get so stuck in a pattern that they can do it without thinking. I call that brainwashing. I've seen it. I've seen it in eventing where people lose their reins or they fall off or something like that. And the horse just continues around and everybody claps. Like, it's amazing. But the reality is it's just pure brainwashing. So I'm not up with the idea so much that I want to rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat the same thing. I'll definitely be shaking things up. I'll do it on the other side. I'll do it in a different place. I'll do it at a different pace, slower or faster. And I'm looking for reactions, not a pattern of actions. So I'm looking for behaviors rather than the action itself, if that makes any sense. So that's when I'll probably repeat some stuff, and I'll be looking for a change in the mind. And it could mean a different change in what the body does, and it might be acceptable. Doesn't always have to be one thing. Anyhow, I think that explains that. If not, let me know. I'll answer more of these questions in depth like this. Hopefully it'll make some sense. And I'll see you guys in the next one.